So a couple of more quick notes on the floats. Quick notes on the floats. One, there are three Y3 bulkheads. Actually 6 if you combine both sides. Y3. But the gap for the Y3, in other words, when you look at the part on the sheet Y3, what I'm calling the gap is the gap spacer that they put. See how they cut it out? They notch it for the top and bottom keels, and this gap is the same on all of the Y3s, and it's a shortcut that they took. That gap is for this location only. Okay, so what happens is on the other two pieces that are Y3, you see how the gap at the bottom, and that's for a good reason. What you want to do, why the gap is there at the bottom and not the top, what you want to do is make sure that when you put those Y3s in, this one and this one, that you press against the top. In other words, you put the notch at the top all the way up. Otherwise, what you'll end up with, if you try centering that and you're not sure why that's not fitting in there, and so you go for the centering, or worse, you put it at the bottom. One, you're going to be hanging off down here, and two, you're going to be uneven at the top, and you really want to be flat across the top of the float. I mean, it should just sit like this when you put it upside down, nice and flat. And if you sight down it, it should be flat all the way down the top. If you're off, just, you know, if you've made a mistake or what have you, and they're off just a little bit, it will come out of the wash. If you're infilling, you can just sand the top of the float to flat. But if you're going to be papering them, you're going to have a situation. All right, so just FYI on that. Also, when you're setting the Y4 here, the little divider that goes on the back side of the last Y3 before Y5, this piece, you're going to need to clean out that opening. In other words, this part and this opening is just not big enough to fit over that bottom keel. I use a flat bar rasp like this. It's kind of a knife edge on one side and a little bit wider at the top. I use that. You can use folded sandpaper, anything you can use to clean that out, even if you want to cut it. I'd use folded sandpaper first, because that'll remove material equally from each side. You really want to get that in there squarely so that your stringers from the rear half, the step, the rear half of the or behind the step, the rear half of the float, you want those stringers to come off square. Okay, just a couple of notes about the floats that I didn't mention initially. Other than that, I don't think there's going to be anything else to talk about. I'll be peeling this one off, setting the opposing formers on it. I'll string them both up, and then we'll start the infill process.